He's got Satutu with him. It's Ioane, in fact. Enrico Ioane's going to score. What a brilliant play from Kevin.
Sorry, Karen, Rog.
No, and just another point in terms of the scrummaging, how they've quickened up that process to get that with the 30 seconds. I don't know when the stop clock starts in order to try and get that. I guess similarly they have that in rugby league as well. They can stop the clock by the time they set up their scrummage, but even though they don't really necessarily push to try and get an advantage. But I think it's quickened it up, and I think they've realised that it has helped. Even though for the purists they might like, or former forwards love watching that scrummaging, that piece in that contest there, but it has helped. With fewer restarts and not taking so long to set it up, I think it has enhanced the spectacle as a whole. And so looking forward to what the rest of the year and how the consistency of the referees playing to that and keeping that at the forefront in terms of a spectacle, because I think when you look at the NRL, it's speed, it's exciting, it's fast, and that's where we lose so many spectators to because of that, and we can't convert enough rugby league purists to the 15-man code because rugby just seems a lot slower. Even though when you look at it, if you don't understand the technicalities of rugby, you're not going to be excited by what it presents. So hopefully that's the beginning of trying to entice some of our 13-man cousins across.
Well, that's actually an interesting point that you raised there, because we're sort of going off on a tangent that I didn't think we were going to go off on. But since the NRL, they tried to make it a bit more TV-friendly, viewer-friendly. They've got all these, you've got to hurry up and get your scrum sorted. You can't take too long to kick the ball. They've sped the game up, and it's great for the fans as you watch it. But the flip side of it has changed the body types of a lot of the players. So the props who used to be these big guys who would sort of get these rests here and there, now they're all sort of 5-10 kgs lighter. I wonder what will happen, say, if we carry on this path with rugby union. If you only got 30 seconds, you're not getting the rest in the front row. You got to be mobile and all the rest of it. They're trying to speed it up. I wonder if there might be some changing of body shapes. Have you guys got any thoughts on that? You're the front row experts. I'm not really my area of expertise.
But because I think the body types that you still see in the front row in rugby union, they are made for what's required in the scrum and in the contest that's there. And so having someone of slight, you only have to look at the under 85 competition in club level anyway, grassroots, to see that that's one of the highest collision rates right across all rugby, because everyone's the same size, or of similar weight. So it doesn't matter how tall or short you are, you weigh around the same. So they're not afraid to run into each other. And then, what happens at scrummage, they're on similar par because everyone's of similar weight. And so, but then when you're playing the open game, in the senior game, then you need those big boys. You try and have an under 85 guy coming up against a Taniela Tupou or his replacement that came on and scored 2 tries for the Waratahs on the weekend. Those guys had some Mal Meninga thighs times 5, and so that's not work. You don't get those in the gym. That's from eating a lot of taro and cassava and carbs and a lot of horse and pork. So, but with a few squats to come as well. So you take that away, you take that body shape away. I mean, you still see some thunderous thighs in rugby league, but they're not built for what the scrummaging brings. And then Joey will know you come up from a scrum and you're almost passing out because you're lightheaded. You're so lightheaded when you're not, breathing. You're just trying to push against your opposition. You got almost 900 kilos coming from the other side, so against you, and you're trying to either fight against that or trying to equal it. But I don't think you change your body shapes to try and be a bit more mobile, and we saw that with a recent Rugby World Cup. I can't remember which one it was, 2019, when they went for mobility over, the likes of having an Owen Franks in there. Was it 2019?
That's right, 2019, yes.
2019. And, your Angus Taravals went, And I think even
ball playing with these ball playing props.
the ball playing props, mobile. And, that's not to discredit the skill set that they bring, because they're still, they do their. I think they just put more emphasis on the mobile game and general play, but still not taking away from their core roles as being in the scrum and being able to hold your own. But when you sort of deny an Owen Franks, the most capped All Black prop of the time, another World Cup, that was saying quite a lot, because they preferred the younger, more mobile option. We've come almost 6 years since then, and we still have the likes of a Daniela Tupou. In Australia, tune them out. But then you look at a guy like Alan Alalatua, he's a different build to some of those props. Alan Alalatua could possibly be a bodybuilder, the type of shape that he's got, compared to a Daniela Tupou, who's more your powerlifter type mold, to what Owen Franks was as well. And then even going back to the days of Craig Dowd. So have we changed much since then? The bind and the hit has changed, but I think that body shape for props, were less in the belly, but more in the thighs these days, and stronger backs.
I suppose I'm just wondering, because they've gone down this route of want to make it more viewer friendly, more friendly for the customer or whatever. So we're going to speed the game up. That puts more emphasis on the aerobic capacity, and then we're not going to have all these scrum resets. So the scrummaging technique doesn't need to be sort of, I'm not going to say as strong as it once was, but it's, if you were an elite scrummager, that was a massive thing. But if they say, well, you've only got one scrum, there's not going to be a reset, and you've only got 30 seconds, and now we expect you to be good around the field, does the sort of the job description change? So I remember there was that guy, Mosili, he was with the Rebels, and he was a converted number 8.
Bonnie.
That they converted him from number 8 to prop. He was excellent ball in hand guy. And
he's 190. He's almost 2 meters tall too.
Yeah, and he was athletic as hell. I think the scrummaging was average because he wasn't where he was brought up. But Mate, Joe, you got any thoughts on that? Do you think there could be a changing of the shapes or the skill set required, particularly for the front row?
I think the key difference that I see in the front row, especially when it comes to scrums, is previously the focus was on, first and foremost, the focus was on the hit. Or these days it's called the set, right? But what I've seen in recent times, it's more focused on what we used to call the second shunt. The second shunt these days is what the scrum is basically focused on. And those core strengths that you needed back then for that kind of thing, it's just become more prevalent now because the focus is less on a hit and more on a shunt, right? So the teams that actually have that core strength and ability to push through a shunt are the teams that are going to dominate when it comes to scrum time. I think as far as the new rules are concerned, they really are speeding up the game, and the teams that just have to really adapt, and they have to adapt quickly. So it's up to the coaches to be really smart about how they manage their players this season, especially with so much talent going around. You've got teams like the Chiefs and the Crusaders who have a lot of depth. So they're going to be playing each other this week. So we'll see some interesting rotations as the season goes on. That'll be an exciting game to watch, the Chiefs and Crusaders, because it'll determine, they're fierce rivals, and it's going to be a battle for dominance. In the set piece, around the park, all over. So that'll be a cool game to watch. The time limits for scrums and lineouts, I think, they just add to the intensity of the game. And, we're seeing players really push themselves to the limits. And I think that, the games will start to show, as they did in round 1. I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of those players were feeling it towards the end of the matches. So they have to be in tip-top shape, because if you're not, you're going to be subbed off, because you're going to be seen walking around with hands on hips and that kind of thing. because it's physically more demanding now than it probably ever was. Well, especially with the introduction of these new rules this season.
Oh, yeah, it's surprising some of the fitness of some of these boys, because some of these boys like Daniela Tupou, the shape of and the size of them, yeah, you think they have to be pretty fit, because just by looking at someone like that, man, it won't be long before you are huffing and puffing, but he's going to have some conditioning to be able to carry that type of size around and that weight and the mobility. And we've seen what he's like when he's got ball in hand. He can be a devastating runner. Got a bit of a jink and a step in him too. So exciting player when he's got that go forward, but powerful nonetheless. And I think he's admittedly he's had to learn his craft as a prop, because he's always been quite a ball runner from when he was discovered as the Tongan Thor at Sacred Heart, was it? And then understanding that his size needs to be utilised well in scrummaging as well. And we've seen even a smaller prop come up against the size of a Daniela Tupou and take him to town, take him to school, because he's been able to use technique over that size. So, and that's where it's getting that fine balance. But then it's technique, using that raw size and strength versus the endurance type physique as well, where they're a lot slimmer, because you can see some props right across the world that are nowhere near as big as the likes of the Owen Franks or the Daniela Tupou, but are able to hold their own as well. So I think guys like that, and that's why I've always been a fan of Marcel Renata. He's not the biggest of props, and just seeing him, how he's developed and into the now a core sort of scrummager in the Blues franchise. And I think he's played over 50 games too for the Blues. So, he's discovered through club rugby, through who's the Wellingtonian coach? Colin, coached the Māori All Blacks. Colin Cooper.
Yeah.
Colin Cooper. So, discovered him. And I remember him getting earmarked and while he was scrummaging for varsity. And so he was an up-and-comer then, and I've felt his power a few times. And even now he's just, the consummate professional with his craft. So, and he's not the biggest of props. And then you look at the guys like Ofa Tungafasi, Angus Taval, they're close to the 190 and able to, come down and try and come up against the smaller, the shorter prop. But then the taller props have more of an advantage in the line-out. So they are able to lift their jumpers a lot higher. So, it's a balancing act, but, it's, I think the body types for props will always be sort of a mixed bag, but then, they come with different skill sets and abilities too.
Good thoughts there. It's something we'll definitely keep an eye on, because I wonder about the future of the game, what the players will look like. I have seen a noticeable difference.
Yeah.
When you look at league, once they make those rule changes of speeding it up to make it more TV and viewer friendly for everyone to watch and make it more exciting. And it looks like rugby's starting to head down that path as well.
Yeah, well, rugby league, it's almost like, if you play front row in rugby league, you can play second row and last man too. So, and they're all interchangeable right throughout that forward pack. It's not quite the same in rugby union, but I hear what you're saying, Stace, because, the body shapes are changing and have changed a lot. And then they even change even in the current climate. You look at heartland or grassroots to heartland to, your first grade in Super Rugby or NPC even, and the body shapes are very different there as well.